So hi, thank you for coming today. My name is Lou, and I'm a dentist by trade, and I've been practicing since 2019. When I first graduated from university, this is where Smile White has started to brew in my mind. We were doing rotations in these low-income clinics, and also hospital clinics where we'd have people come in, and their teeth will be quite damaged, so they would lose all their teeth, and I would watch these people after suffering the trauma of having them removed, also being burdened with the idea of, hey, what do I do now? Like, I don't have dentures at all. And yet, without those teeth, I can smile, I can go anywhere. So it was really just this thing that got me started thinking. So this is how Smile White started. So before I start, I always like to start with a little bit of humor. So I'm going to show you a picture, and if you could tell me what is wrong with this picture, and I'll give you a few seconds. So right away, you see this guy, he's missing a tooth, but do you also see that he's also missing an eyebrow? So that's kind of what we're getting at with Smile Wide is that a smile is so important to a person's integral well-being. You'll notice the smile missing, but you won't notice like a big eyebrow missing. So that's kind of where we're going with this. And before we start to get into the gist of it, we're going to define what is a denture. So a denture is a custom appliance to replace missing teeth, allowing to establish function and aesthetics. So it is very important for non-denture wearer to understand that dentures are just like any sort of prosthetics. It's a replacement of a limb. So it's never going to feel as great as your normal teeth, but it can achieve a really good replacement of that function if the fit is perfect and the precision of the final product is there. So that's also what we're going to get into and when we're talking about the quality of these dentures. So a full denture would replace all teeth on an arch, whether it's upper or lower, and a partial denture would replace a few missing teeth. So in this case, you'd see that person is only really missing three teeth, but they have to suffer with this metal frame that anchors the whole structure to their existing teeth. So it was put there on purpose, just that kind of to draw your attention there to that metal part that's visible and fairly annoying because of those little hooks that can get food caught. And also when you're smiling, you're definitely showing those. So the problem with the rising cost of dental care, people avoiding to go to the dentist, and just generally dental care are rising by 10% every year in every province. So not only are people not going to the dentist because it costs a lot, when they have an issue, they let it sit. So a lot of that leads to tooth loss. And dentures are one of the most expensive treatment that you can find in dentistry. So a denture will cost on average $1,200 to $2,000. And if you're missing teeth on both arch, then you're kind of doubling that amount. So you need two dentures, top and bottom. So that's kind of like what we're trying to solve here and making dentures more affordable. So if we're going to Canadian statistic, a third of Canadians have no dental insurance, and that's the most important takeaway. And also, what we consider to be seniors of age 60 and plus, 53% of this population have no dental insurance. And also, when it comes to losing teeth, I would say close to a quarter of Canadians lose teeth in a period of 3 years. So if they haven't lost one too many teeth, that's going to happen eventually. It's almost like not saying if, it's a when. And also 6% of Canadian population have no teeth. So it's another thing that's important to know is that dentures need replacement. So people can wear them for years and years, but ideally they should be replaced every 5 to 7 years, depending on the usage. And if they're flopping around, then you kind of know that, okay, well, it's time to go. So the impact, obviously, because of that rising dental care, low-income earners and Canadians without dental insurance lack the affordable alternative for dentures. Sometimes when we're talking with our discovery groups, what I like to say is that you have these guys that make implants, denture, and all these fancy things. It's like the Bentley of dentures, but you don't have anything like a reliable little Toyota that'll get you, chewing. So that's kind of what we're aiming at making these dentures of high quality and affordable. So our solution for that is an affordable denture clinic that combines in-person service and teledentistry. And with my practice as a military as a military dentist for a few years is that I kind of realized that you don't really need that much for a functioning clinic, especially when it comes to dentures. You really need just a computer, an intraoral scanner, and basically a chair. So that's kind of all you need to get a really good, decent working denture going. And obviously, our value is that it's personalized care, time saving, cost saving, and we're able to give a quality product at the end. So the four pillars of our business model is combining virtual care and in-person care. Like traditionally, dentures need around 6 appointments just to kind of fine tune all the little details. We're able to reduce those visits to only 2. They come in, they take an impression, and then they come in, they get the denture, and that's it. And the second pillar is that we're using mobile pop-up clinics. So we're not opening a clinic somewhere, we're using a location, just like a community center, a church, or even a partner clinic. That's what's going on right now with one of my colleagues. He has a clinic down in Greeley here in Ottawa, and we pop up there every Saturday and we see our clients there. And so that means access to a large population and low overheads. And thirdly, digitally, we use a digital process and a 3D printing. We use a digital process and 3D printing in the creation of our denture. So the cost of production is fairly low, and also we are able to scale that. So basically, what it takes is more printers, and a lot of the design work we design it or we outsource it. So that's kind of like how we're able to service a large population with the setting that we already have. And also, we are a social enterprise. We are very involved with the community. We are currently working with the Ottawa Mission to provide free dentures, but also we go in hospitals and get in touch with their foundation so that when somebody gets into an accident and they're losing their teeth, they have somewhere to turn to. So they give them our card to kind of say, hey, have you looked at this mobile clinic that can, replace your teeth if you don't have insurance? So we only offer two types of denture, one type of full and one type of partial. Our partial is a flexible partial. That's where we're kind of like superior to our competition, which is there is no metal in there, and they're super comfortable. They're flexible. They're made from a thermoflex nylon, so they are milled and also digitally designed. And right now we're outsourcing them to a partner lab overseas who has all the FDA and Health Canada ticks in the boxes, but we're looking to bring that production in-house. We're partnering up with a friend of mine who has a 5-axis mill, who's able to mill these dentures at a fairly large volume and at a good speed. So, and also we have 3D printed full dentures, and we already have the setup for that. I have my 4 printers. They're kind of like all going full speed when we're making dentures. And so what we do is that we print the gums, we print the teeth, and then we glue them together, and the fabrication cost is fairly low from there on. So our process, what makes us different is not the technology, because the technology is fairly available to all dental offices, but it's our process that kind of sets us apart, where we're able to bring down these amount of appointments that the person has to come back and the trueness of those dentures. So how we start is first we go through a virtual consultation, make sure that the person is a good fit for us, because you do need a little bit of dexterity to adjust your denture, and that's kind of where we're putting our emphasis on is education and also independence from the person that comes and asks that comes and go through our service. And second, we do in-person impression. We tried before when we were just kind of testing things to do a mail-in box. That wasn't good at all. We weren't obtaining reliable data. And so we really want reliable data digitally, because that is the basis of how we're going to make our dentures. That data the better it is, the best it is for that final product. And then the third step is in-person delivery and adjustment. So when a denture comes back, it still needs a little bit of adjustment because the teeth might not touch the same way. It might be a little bit too much pressure on the gums. So in that case, we take care of that adjustment. And by just doing that, and we take away 90% of the adjustment. So really the last step in this process is really just to do the virtual follow-up. And we give them an adjustment kit, and they're able to just buff up little areas that's kind of like bothering them. And we've never had somebody damage a denture. We've never had any issues with that. And you'd be surprised how much dexterity a 74-year-old lady still has and still understands this process if it's explained to them. So our process is basically pop in for one appointment and come again for the second one, and then that's it. And we still have that follow-up, but when it comes in terms of displacement, you are fairly okay in that sense. So market overview, we're talking about 2.8, and it's driven by technology, higher quality of care, and also for young people, incidence of tooth decay is increasing, and probably due to not being able to go to the dentist that often, especially if you're just starting and you're like a university student. And our market advantage obviously is affordable pricing and low overheads. Our total addressable market is for $405 billion market. Locally, who distributes dentures? It's really just denturists and dentists. And for both of these providers, it's a very high overhead because they have brick and mortar clinics, sorry. And so when you're taking off, and if you're looking at denturist and dentist, they're really making 30% of profit on whatever they charge you, which is sometimes very surprising because you're like, oh my God, I go to the dentist and it's so expensive, but really they're making a net profit on 30% of what they're charging you. So our main competitor are dentist denturists, yes, but there's also online denture provider, and it's something that we don't often think about. They are in the States, they're allowed, they're not kind of bending regulation, but you could definitely, go and order a kit, take your own impressions, send it back, and they would send you a denture. Now, you don't have any reliance on, do you have feedback? No. Do you have any recourse if it doesn't fit? No. So otherwise, you're kind of stuck with dentists and denturists, and their main downside is that they're very expensive. So we're talking $1,200 to $2,000 easily per denture. And so right now, our current pricing strategy is that we're selling the partial denture for $480, everything included, there's no taxes, and the full denture for $620. So if somebody would need a combination of these two, it would add those numbers together. And it really doesn't cost us a lot to make the full denture. It's only $76, but notice that the partial denture is a little bit more higher. That's why we're hoping to bring that production in-house so that we can definitely slash that pricing, that cost by half by achieving the in-house milling. And then our gross margin for the partial denture is almost half the pricing, a little bit less, sorry, and then the full denture, and then it's significantly more. And so we're looking also to increase these prices because we've recently gone to the EY Center's 55 and plus lifestyle show, and we were able to talk to people. And so some of the feedbacks that I got was, hey, you could easily charge more. I'd still be happy to be a customer. So we're looking to increase those prices effective of October 1st. So through your projection, we're currently, if everything goes well, this is kind of like the numbers that we're looking at. By year 3, we're hoping to reach around 165. And generally, these numbers are fairly conservative in the sense that if we were seeing 6 patients every weekend, and not weekdays, only on weekends for every week for a whole year, we'd be making 140,000 by as revenue. So that's kind of like, these are really conservative numbers. I like to be on the safer side of things, but it's definitely something that is achievable within 3 years. So our team, I'm the sole founder and proprietor. I have a team of great ladies who help me. They're all volunteer dental assistant. They all believe in what we're trying to achieve. I would like to bring one of them on board as full-time if we're able to grow our business a little bit more and gather some funding. And also our milestones. So we took 2021 and 2022 to really come up with the business plan and design and testing. So we really started to see our first customer as of March 2023, and it's been going really well. We went to, for example, the lifestyle show, and we got 40 to 50 leads. So that's really, really good. So that's kind of what the growth that we're looking at, and we're just kind of just catching up and trying to call back all the people. So vision and mission, our goal is to make dentures affordable and accessible without sacrificing quality of care. And we strive to become Canada's leading denture care provider. So thank you very much for your attention.
Great job, Lou. And you were under 14, just over 14 minutes. So you already cut back some time. So that was great and fantastic
Yeah.
slide deck. Okay, I'll hand things over to, why don't we start with Kathy this time?
Sure. So I do have my IRAP hat on at the same time. So some of my questions first are going to be around your eligibility for IRAP. Okay. So what I had a lot of trouble finding was where the innovation really is. And I think it's in the thermal flex nylon that's used for the partial denture. And that's one innovation. And then the other innovation is this self-adjustment options that you provide to your clients. And then the third innovation would be the streamlined delivery process because of how you're 3D printing the dentures for your clients. Is that accurate?
Yes, that would be correct. And also the reducing a six almost a mandatory 6 appointment visit to just two. We're able to do that with the partial denture and the full denture, which is something that is unheard of in dentistry, and we're able to print these with such a precision that they almost need no adjustment. Compared to traditional way of making dentures, like with wax, you would basically take an impression, pour it into stone. The stone might expand, and then you would carve your teeth and your gums into wax, put it into a big bath, melt away the wax. The wax would be, the teeth would be then stuck in stone, and then you inject that with acrylic. So in that whole process, your intimacy of that denture is really lost. So when we create a denture, they plop it in and they're like, wow. And that's usually kind of like the first comment that I get, which is like, this is so different.
That's great. Okay. So when just a couple of pieces of feedback. So in the problem description, you're talking a lot about targeting a solution for low income earners, or people who don't have access to health care, or insurance, dental insurance, I guess. Well, so help me understand your solution from just the technology of it, the thermal flex nylon and the fast turnaround, like the creation of the product. Forget the delivery and installation part, but just the product itself. Wouldn't that be appealing to dental offices and denturist offices?
That could be, yeah. It's just the way that I envisioned it was to sell it to B2C. Just because otherwise it doesn't cost that much to it just it doesn't make much of a difference. They can still, it's not providing an affordable solution to the masses. Yes, it's absolutely possible to sell it to dentists and denturists, and it's just that I guess it's a more social aspect that I was going for.
Okay. And now, in terms of technology use, so one of the things you said is that you needed to do the in-person impressions. Are there any other ways to do impressions that don't require an in-person visit?
Yeah, so we tested with boxes. So what inspired us a lot was also Smile Direct Club, where it's like an aligner company where they send you your box, you take your impression, you send it back to them. It's possible for full denture. I've had really good success because there's no teeth left. It's not the process of, it's not in the process the issue, it's the legality. We've asked some of our lawyers, and are we okay to take these impressions without ever seeing these patients? And they're like, yes and no. You run into a big risk of, if the mouth is not healthy, you might be pulling out some teeth while you're doing these impressions, and then you're screwed because you've one never seen them, but then your professional liability is still on the line.
Mhm. Um, okay, I think I'd like to see this pitch again in a couple of weeks, if I can get signed up to see Lou. Yeah, I'm gonna pass it over to Nick.
Thanks, Kathy. Lou,
Because, oh,
yep. So first
sorry,
off, I
I
really
just
go ahead, Lou.
oh, sorry, I just wanted to add initially how this was, how we envisioned it was that it was a whole virtual process, that we wouldn't have to see anybody, and then it would just be like dentures in the box. It does work. We have a process that works. It's just like legally, I was told, hey, you really should be seeing these people face to face and check things out. And lo and behold, we did have a few people that like their teeth were barely hanging by a thread, and like easily we could have like they could have taken an impression and those would have come out with the impression itself. So in that case, they're like, what do we do?
Of course, yeah, that makes sense. Thanks, Lou.
Well, thanks, Lou. I like what you've done together here in business. You've combined a whole bunch of things. I really like the opening, like what you did at the
Oh
beginning.
yeah.
It's a great example of immediately getting the viewer emotional sort of connection there, because I didn't see the eyebrow and I was like, and I had myself nodding in that first 30 seconds. You know what a smile really is? I know it's important, but it's even more important than maybe I thought. So that was really well played. It's a really great example of sort of riding in on an elephant, as I say at the beginning of a presentation. So well done with that. And I like overall all these things you're combining. It's just I have real questions of whether you need to raise money, whether you should raise money, or whether someone should invest money in what you're doing, because of it's unclear where the dollars are going and where the innovation is. There's an innovation to the business model. There's a whole bunch of things that you've sort of combined, from the accessibility of mobile convenience at that I can go in Greeley, on a weekend, to the virtual visits from 6 to 2, to the use of synthetic that feels better, all of these things. And it gets complicated sort of figuring out how you're really differentiating yourself, or what the real difference is, and why couldn't a traditional denture company just go from 2 to 6 visits, even if they're not have a mobile, so those things are what's a sustainable competitive advantage versus ones that sort of a short-term innovation that allows you to grab market share, that by the time, others figure out it's too late. But when thinking about that, like your projections are so low and so small, this looks like a side hustle business, like 3 years from now, 160K, like right as soon as you showed that, I'm like, every investor will just, honestly, they'll walk. That looks like you have a full-time job and you're doing this on the side for fun. And why would you need 100 grand now if only 3 years from now you only have 160K in revenue? So I think you need to think about sitting down with an advisor on, okay, what's my plan here? You could still raise money, and that's my, are you really going to roll out a series of these mobile clinics in California or in Florida, or is this just a local play? And if it is, it could be a wicked business for some local investors to invest in to get a return on their capital. And I could see some angels investing, but it's different from, say, a traditional venture investment where you're going to a VC, you're ultimately looking for seed and VC. You'd be looking at sort of a family office, or some angels who just look at this and go, cool, we can put this money in and it turns into an annuity that comes back to us, and the profits that we're able to generate from this. So I think you really need to put some thoughts into that. Like, what's the plan forward? What do I really need money for? What will it do if I get 50 or 100 grand now? What would I use it for? And how does my revenue go from here to there, or my growth, or how do I de-risk it? Because that wasn't really clear to me. The other thing, a small thing, when you talked about getting someone locally to insource it versus overseas, you said, oh, it's actually a friend of mine can do it. It sounds like, I know a guy or I found someone. It doesn't sound like you found like the best person. It just happens to be a friend of yours. So I would position as, it's something like someone I've known for a long time who has an incredible reputation in the industry and that I could trust because I've had a long-standing relationship with. It's a small thing, but just position it that way. So that it doesn't come off like, oh, I just ran into this person who happens to have a 3D printer and he experiments at home and he's going to do it for me. Won't necessarily give an investor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's it. And Kathy covered some of my questions on what the innovation was. Just another question.
Yeah, so I think in terms of, if I may just double in on Nick, if there's some time, Katie, is that okay?
Yeah, we do just have to, I have to close this session to head into the next. So maybe if you can summarize in about a minute.
Yes. So
Okay,
I think in defining the problem, you want to think about how you're going to explain the innovation when you explain the solution. And on the business model, I think a little bit more work on how are you going to really show a lot of revenue growth here. Is it, these prefabricated pop-up clinics that anybody with dental background could purchase from you at, $100,000, flat out plus a monthly subscription of 50K or something. And then I don't know what it looks like, but I think spending some more time on your business model would be really valuable.
Would it add more value if I said that we're looking to open more clinics? So like there would be one here in Ottawa, but we could open one in Edmonton and it would be basically the addition of these guys in combination that would fuel our scaling.
I think that's what you'd want to look at something like that, right? So your units, instead of your unit sales being per denture, your unit sales is per the creation of clinics and how much revenue each pop-up clinic can generate.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, on that note, I do have to close the session. Thank you so much. This is just incredible
Great job, guys.
feedback. Yes, and I will make the recordings available to you within the next 48 hours, as well as the feedback that's submitted through the forums. Thank you so much, Nick and Kathy, and great job, Lou and Sophia. Great job. Okay, thank you all.